Hi, this is Avani, UK Soul Queen Diva, and you're tuned into the Ask Avani Show on the Get Global Network. Good afternoon, welcome back. This is the Ask Avani Show. I'm speaking with my special guest this afternoon, Yaseen Aslam. Welcome back.
Yep, hi.
Hi, I just wanted to ask you, I've got so many questions for you. You know, this is a fantastic topic because this is going to affect so many people. And I'm just curious, before the break, you were talking about, you know, how drivers sometimes feel a little bit like they have to, not bribe, but be extra nice to their customers, you know, to keep their ratings up because of the rating system that Uber has introduced as well. What ways do you think that the drivers who actually want to see the laws changed and be granted things like minimum wage can help, especially if they're afraid to speak out, like you mentioned?
Like I said, this is it. When you get that worker's status, it puts rights and gives us that protection where workers could then freely speak. Okay, so at the moment, workers are being exploited. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. It comes down to making sure that we don't have sweated conditions and slave labor on the streets of London, and that's what we have. Unfortunately, we talk about exploitation, slave labor, and all kind of abuse happening in all kind of different abuse happening in other countries, but we got it happening here. Yes. So like I was trying to explain, going back onto the rating system, it's not drivers do it out of choice. It's because they're sort of put into that circumstances where the job depends on it, so they rather do what they need to just to get that money coming in, and that shouldn't be the case. Now, the sad reality is, and this is, if you look at, like, Uber always claims there's a big massive queue. If you were to go to Uber's office today, there's a big massive queue of drivers joining. Now, the sad reality is we will find people in this country that are willing to work for £2 an hour, but the question is it right? Do we allow? And this is why we have these employment laws to stop these kind of things from happening. Exactly. So just because someone wants to work for me for £2 an hour, that doesn't make it right.
No, the cost of living is so high.
That's what I'm trying to say. So when we got these laws being applied, it stops companies from exploiting people, and it stops people from selling themselves so low. And that's what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, Uber have repeatedly said in the media that over 80% of drivers actually prefer to be classed as self-employed contractors. Apparently, they've conducted the polls. Have you found other ways that you can prove that that's not the case?
I mean, going back onto that data, if you look at that data, and if you go onto our website, www.uphd.org, we have done a lot of data ourselves. And let me just give me a few seconds, and I'll see if I can get you some of our data. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, if you look at Uber, data they refer to is data of 1,000 drivers, I think it is. Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing this in the media. While you look for it, I just want to say to my listeners, we are hearing this in the media. This is a massive case because, as we've said, this is not just going to affect Uber drivers of 40,000 plus. This is going to affect other people across other industries in what we call now these days the gig economy, and there are so many workers who are being exploited. They're not being paid the minimum wage. They may have been working for companies for years and they have been forced to class themselves as self-employed, not because they wanted to. Maybe it's because that's all they could find, and other companies weren't hiring at all, and a company said, yeah, we're hiring, but you have to class yourself as self-employed. And this could be for anything, whether it's a hairdresser, but if they're working through somebody else, as far as I can see, they're a worker. It's because, as you said earlier, when you're self-employed, you can set your own rates and tell people, right, this is how much I charge for my services or whatever. But when you work through another company like Uber, as you said, they are setting the rates for you and they're telling you what they're going to pay.
I mean, going back onto your question, like as an Uber driver, this is the main thing that the judge looked at. One is who, like, for example, we have a rating system. That means there is some element of control there. The second thing is the route. Uber control the routes we go. So for argument's sake, if I went a different route, and you made a complaint as a customer, Uber would then look at their app, see what route I took. If I didn't take the recommended route by the app, I then get penalized on it. So that means you can get a refund on it. So that's showing control. Secondly, the money is taken by Uber and then paid to the driver. Okay, so those were the kind of thing that the judge, where if I was self-employed, I could then decide what I want to charge you.
Exactly.
I set the fare. I decide I got to take you from A to B. I need to decide the best route, and I'm in charge of that.
Yes.
And again, you don't rate me. If you don't like my service, you don't use me again.
Exactly. And that's why I think that is so out of order. But I mean, I have to ask you about this. Uber was set to lose their license to operate here in London a few weeks ago. And it was said that, obviously, we've been talking about it, they helped provide over 40,000 jobs. But I have to say, if Uber continue to treat drivers in the way they have been by not paying proper wages, a lot of those drivers will have to stop working for Uber because they can't make ends meet. So please, what do you think about that?
I mean, going back, I think that's quite important. I'm glad you asked that question because, like I was mentioned earlier on about TfL, they're the regulators here. Now, we had some serious issues. And one of our, like I mentioned, there's so many issues that TfL could hold Uber accountable. For example, them not paying UK taxes. Then one of the things that we were fighting for was making sure they attach workers' condition onto their license. Because don't forget, we actually won in court.
Right.
So Uber's denying that and not willing to accept the ruling of the court.
Yeah. Can they not get extra, penalties for that because now they're not?
They could. This is what I'm saying. But the TfL completely ignored that issue. To be honest, the way I see it is they don't care if we're being exploited or not. That's between us and Uber. Yeah. So again, like I said, they could have made our life a lot easier. Secondly, going on to Uber, then suddenly decided that 40,000 jobs going to be, and that them being hypocrite. Yeah, because then 2 days or 3 days later, they're fighting us in court for basic rights. Now, just to clarify, we're not there to shut Uber down. We're not against shutting any company down. We're there. And again, like I said, what TfL done was completely wrong because the reason why they refused to renew that license was based on, for example, drivers not having the correct DBS, medical. That's something done by TfL, not by Uber. Yeah. So it's all a political game for them. It's just about to say they're doing something when they're not actually doing something. And I reckon Uber's going to win that appeal.
Yes.
And the license, like I said, even though it being refused, they could still carry on operating.
Yeah. Through the whole time, they're still operating. So, they're not losing out. They're still making money, but they're still exploiting the drivers in the meantime. Because things are still happening. I mean, do you think that there's been certain aspects of the UK government and the tax office who were worried about upsetting Uber as they didn't want them to take their business elsewhere, which also would have meant losing out on tax money as well?
I mean, it's a known fact. Now, looking at it from the mayor's point of view, he doesn't want to upset the customers, okay, because they're getting it cheap. But at the same time, Uber does have a good political backing. In terms of the Tories. So you probably heard Theresa May, the Prime Minister for UK, that come on and she's talking about 40,000 job losses, but she didn't want to comment on the workers' right case, making sure workers ain't being exploited. And I think it was Daily Mail that done a big, massive article on the links between Uber and the Tory party, Boris Johnson, David Cameron, George Osborne. So they do have some political connections there, which is why they get this easy ride.
Wow. Okay, I really need to know this then. Please tell me. Are you planning on setting up a petition to take to number 10 Downing Street, which hopefully will reach over 100,000 signatures? Because then this issue can be debated in the House of Commons as well, and then hopefully get employment laws here in the UK changed once and for all.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, are you planning on setting up a petition to take it to number 10 so that it will reach over 100,000 signatures and then it can be debated and then it can get the employment laws changed?
Okay. I mean, debate is already been happening in the Parliament and it has been brought up many times. Frank Field, one of the leading MP, actually wrote a report called Sweated Labour after he'd done his own independent investigation onto companies like Uber. Work and Pension Committee also invited UPHD members where they were able to tell their views, and Uber was also invited. So the government is actually looking into it and working on this. And Matthew Taylor, Theresa May actually appointed Matthew Taylor to go out there and do this report. But that report was just ticking some boxes. It didn't actually deliver anything. It didn't
Thank
deliver
you for
anything.
saying that. Thank you, because I heard about that, but I'm the same thing. So
It didn't deliver anything. For example, one of the main issues workers like myself have is trying to get the money for tribunal fees. So, for example, let's say, I'll give you a typical example here. Let's say I got a contract with you. I'm working for you. Agreement is I'm gonna get paid £500 a week. Suddenly, 1 week, you turn up with my payback and there's only £300 in there. And you turn around and say, tough. Yeah? Yeah? If you don't like it, do one, yeah?
Wow.
So within my right, even though I got it all in contract, I got everything there black and white, yeah? Now, my option is to go to courts, yeah? I need to find £1,500 to go into court.
Wow.
Yeah, so once I pay £1,500 and I pay legal fees, my solicitor's fees and blah, 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 and we had this, and the judge then finally ruled, okay, yeah, actually it says on the contract, this guy should be getting paid £500. You need to pay him £500, so you need to pay him another £200. That's it. They just have to pay that £200, but I ended up losing. So the question is, would I then, if I knew all this, would I actually then go out there, spend that money to just get my £200 back?
Yeah.
This was down to Matthew Taylor to look at these things and make things easy for everyone. So after Matthew Taylor's report, I think it was in Supreme Court. The Union actually took this into Supreme Court where they won. So now tribunal fees gonna get abolished. Yeah. But it's just like it's the government. Technically speaking, what it is the government setting all these rules, but then they're putting a little things in place to make sure no one can access these laws or get protected under these laws.
What's the point? I mean, if you did do this petition, I think it would be another string to your bow to be able to say, because I know I'm sure there's many people who would sign it, because a petition is like, you're putting your name to something because you want to be able to stand united and say, yes, I agree with this petition and I'm putting my name to it, I'm putting my weight behind it. And like you said, once we get to over 100,000 signatures, they have to, this is the law of the land here in the UK, isn't it? They have to debate it in the House of Commons. So would you do that, or do you think what you're doing is enough for now?
I mean, we have done it. That's what I'm saying. That, like I said, the debates are already happening in Parliament. And we already won in court, but it's like, for example, TfL, we won in court. So normally, generally speaking, if that's some other company, some other regulator, they'll turn around and say, listen, these guys won in court. We want you to accept the court judgment and respect the court.
Yeah, but they won't. So I want to know if they're going to get penalties for that as well in future, because they deliberately ignored it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So it's not nice. So when you got normal people like me out there fighting, we got a family life. I got to work. I got a job to do. I can't be out there. And this is the whole idea of someone like Uber. When they got money, it's about trying to push it as far as they can and see how far these guys would go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said you were working as an Uber driver, and obviously that was quite a while ago now. But when you were working as an Uber driver, when did you finally say, you know what, I have to stop? Because you said they deactivated you and then they let you back on, and then, I mean, did you think, I want to do this and I can't stay working with them at the same time because they're just making my life hell?
Yeah, I mean, that's what happened. So eventually, when it come to that stage, I realized I can't do driving anymore because it was just, the pay was going down and down. And don't forget, when you're working 80, 90 hours, I've got a family to feed, I'm not seeing my kids. I'd rather be in a stable job, earning what I should be earning, than doing what I was doing. And going back, like I said, it's about flexibility, and that's what Uber says. You got this flexibility, the freedom to work when you want. And that is true.
If you're getting the money.
But the thing is, it's like me saying you got a freedom, you can work whenever you want. But if you need to earn £100, that freedom comes at a very high price.
Exactly, because if your money, the rate you're making that money is taking longer to make, then you're going to end up working longer trying to make that money.
That's correct. That's correct. So, but going back, I just got some, because I wasn't prepared for this. But I mean, looking at some of my data